Hello and welcome to Apex Online Racing. We're on F1 2016, it's Season 13 of the Xbox League, and we're at Spa for the 11th round and the Belgian Grand Prix. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Justin, and joining me for all the action today, it's Ali.
Indeed, and today obviously the legendary Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, the longest track on the modern Formula 1 calendar, and arguably one of the most iconic as well. And with the mechanics on this game, it has the potential to turn into a bit of a slipstream fest, and with the potential for rain on Sunday, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a fairly incredible race.
Yes, lots and lots of overtakes we are hoping for. Last time out, it was the championship leader, the Flying Finn, who put another notch on his belt and edged closer to a second consecutive AOR championship. Completing the rostrum was TRL Martin, over 4 seconds behind after the 34 laps, and TRL Limitless, who was a couple of seconds further back in third. In the standings, Finn now commands a 77-point lead over TRL Martin, and JD's podium at Hockenheim moved him back into third in the points with a 1-point lead over the Williams of ESR Surprize, and a further 6 points to the other Renault of Jason 97 F1. That's how Season 13 is shaping up, but let's turn now toward one of the best races of the season, starting with the side-by-side lap comparison and full qualifying results for the Belgian Grand Prix.
Round 11 of the season sees us at Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix, looking at a qualifying comparison between the two Haas teammates of ESR Orca and Danny M7. Both drivers start off the lap with a wide line to get the best possible run down the start-finish straight, opening up the DRS and braking into turn 1 at the 100-metre board. Both drivers flick it down into first gear and short shift on the exit into fourth gear for the best possible traction. Both drivers are going to be full throttle for a very long time here as they go down the hill and flat out through a rouge here, through that left and then that right and then the left again. And as they exit the top here, they'll be looking to open up the DRS and they'll be hitting about 220 miles an hour before they brake into the section of Ycoms. And as we stop it at the end of the first sector, you'll see that there's absolutely nothing to choose between the two teammates here. And both drivers navigating their way pretty nicely through that section there. Bit of oversteer on the exit of the right-hander there for both drivers, but it's easily dealt with. Into a tricky downhill braking zone. Very easy to lock up the front right there for that long right-hander. And now into the no-name corner, difference of gear use between the drivers there, as Orca used third and Danny used fourth. And into P1, both drivers can be using fifth gear here and on the power as early as possible. Careful not to run it out wide, as you can be pulled off the track at that point. And into this long right-hander and left-hander, Danny getting himself a bit onto the apex, a bit better than Orca. Orca short shifting up to 6th on the exit there, and as you can see, nothing to choose between the two drivers again at the end of the second sector. Now very important to get a good exit here down the back straight, and there's really only one corner left that really matters, which is the bus stop chicane, and if you outbrake yourself there, your lap's completely gone, but you can gain a lot of time in the braking zone. But just before that, you've got the fast left-hander of Bonchemont there, again easily flat out. Now into the bus stop chicane here, both drivers braking as late as possible, down into first gear there, and first gear again for the final part, short shifting on the exit again, opening up the DRS, and that's a front row lockout for both Haas drivers there. Brilliant laps by both drivers.
So taking a look at the grid for the Belgian Grand Prix, and in one of the most unbelievable qualifying sessions you will ever see in this league, it was a Haas F1 team 1-2 with ESR Orca coming home just ahead of Danny M7 with less than a tenth separating the two of them, with both of them out qualifying reigning champion and current championship leader, the Flying Finn, with the top three separated by less than a tenth of a second. In fourth, 3 tenths back, we have ESR Finch, who's just ahead of TRL Martin in fifth. ESR Surprize will line up ahead of both Renaults in 6th, with Limitless pipping Jason to P7. Rounding out the top 10, we have STS F1 Alonso and Stu, with just behind them is RS Falcon, those three incredibly close, all sat on 9 tenths back from the pole time. In 12th, we have ESR Ryan, who will line up ahead of Burnout F1 in 13th. Then it's an all Toro Rosso row of LuckyDog and 6 Kills. LuckyDog actually the only person in the entire field to go for the soft compound of tyre. Tiro Williams will line up just ahead of Franglish, who was the last person to set a time in the session after AOR Reversal was unable to make the start due to a race ban after accumulating a full 50 penalty points in one race last time out in Hockenheim. But now it is time for the Belgian Grand Prix.
Welcome to a fairly wet Spa-Francorchamps where the heavens have opened and the 17 drivers are predicted to be spending the entire 22 laps with water on the circuit. Not only that, but the qualifying results have thrown a real spanner in the championship hopes of the Flying Finn and Mercedes in general, with ESR Orca, formerly Killer Whale, who has taken pole position, and amazingly, Ali, his Haas teammate, has gone and locked out the front row.
Yeah, one of the most incredible qualifying sessions you will ever see. I don't think anybody would have called that coming into this race, but 100% chance of rain for this race. So all of the dry running that these drivers would have done throughout the week has all gone out of the window. All the strategy, they've got to completely ignore it. And I'm assuming on Inters we're probably going to be looking at a one stop, but they're two Haas drivers. Wow. That is just incredible. Both drivers in the 44s in qualifying, which is incredible enough, but to out-qualify the Flying Finn, that is something else.
Yeah, just 15 1/1000ths of a second between Danny M7 and the Flying Finn, so it was definitely close in qualifying, but really, just out of nowhere, a fantastic job by both Haas drivers to actually get ahead of the reigning champion and possibly the next champion as well, based on how things have been going so far this season. But the drivers are making their way to the grid slots now. Again, just 17 drivers will be starting this race, but I don't think we'll be lacking for action at all as we prepare to go racing on board with the pole man himself, ESR Orca. New name, 5 lights. On board now with TRL Martin from fifth position, as the lights go out, and it's a good start for the Red Bull, good start for the Williams, and it looks like both Haas's are off to a good start as well. The Flying Finn looking up the inside on Danny M7, but looking very cautious as well. No contact at all between any of the drivers in the top spots as they make their way through La Source, and down the hill they go down towards Eau Rouge. On board with the Sauber of ESR Surprize, back on with TRL Martin, who's getting a heck of a slipstream. Oh, a bit of contact with the back of the Williams, gives him some oversteer. That's going to lose him positions for sure. TRL Limitless already on the offensive, as is the Flying Finn. He's going to have to go around the outside. No, he switches back to the inside. Under braking, catches Danny M7's front wing. That's going to be some damage for the Haas for sure. The Flying Finn, oh, and ESR Finch as well, who took avoiding action, rejoins the circuit ahead of Danny M7. TRL Limitless is going to have to go defensive against ESR Surprise. No move doing down there into the long right-hander. Stu now making a move on RS Falcon, and we've seen a little bit of carbon fiber, but for the most part, Ali, here has been very clean stuff.
Yeah, for the most part, Martin obviously losing out massively at the top of Eau Rouge. I think that is him in the Red Bull just behind there, so he's out of the points already. The Flying Finn already up into second place, but that was a little bit of a questionable move under braking on Danny, as Limitless is pressuring the Haas, who's got front wing damage, remember, is going to be under a lot of pressure into the chicane. Limitless goes for a big dive, and Limitless is already up into P4. He's absolutely flying early on. Finch is up into P3 after taking an unorthodox line through the chicane on the opening lap, and this is Alonso following Jason. It's still very messy. The field hasn't spread out at all on this opening lap, and we do have the potential for a slipstream train to form here, as the Haas driver, Orca, has disappeared off the front. He's gapping the Flying Finn, which is not something I thought I'd be saying. What an incredible start for Orca. Oh, that's looking like he's going to run a little bit wider. Blanchimont, as Surprise, does exactly the same thing. And Jason is going to be able to sneak around the outside at the bus stop. Izzy Surprises very late on the brakes. Jason trying to carry it around the outside, and I think he will get that one done as we have yellow flags again. Oh, and it's gone from bad to worse for TRL Martin. Had a bit of oversteer and lost the car at Eau Rouge, and now he is dead last with no front wing. That has not gone well at all.
Yeah, not good at all for the man who started in 5th position. He's going to have to make a stop at the end of the first lap. Back on board, though, with the man who got pole. Oh, and he's gotten it all wrong at Eau Rouge. That's going to lose him lots of time to the Flying Finn behind. Let's see, he's closing in massively, over 200 miles an hour already as they come onto the Kemmel Straight. Orca gets defensive into Ycoms, and the Flying Finn is going to have to go around the outside. Onto the brakes they go. The Flying Finn looks like he's just about got him. He's got the inside line now for the left-hander, but he won't now for the next right-hander here. ESR Orca holding on to that position, still side by side with the Mercedes as they come out of the corner, down the hill now from the highest point on the circuit. ESR Finch as well, battling with the Renault. Jason 97 shooting up the inside on the ESR Surprise. The Sauber doing some battling with the Renault as well. And Orca still side by side with the Flying Finn, the reigning AOR champion, on his inside as they go through the corner with no name on down towards Puhan they go. Inside line for the Flying Finn. Is that going to be enough for him? It is. He just narrowly pulls ahead, and there's some more contact, actually. We're not seeing a lot of side-by-side contact, people hitting each other's sides. But oh my gosh, that's some very late braking for TRL Limitless, and he keeps it on circuit. Oh no, in contact between ESR Surprize and Danny M7. That's going to drop them into the gravel and way out of position. Or as Falcon with a big tank slapper means he might lose a position to Stu here as well. It's only the second lap. No DRS, of course, because of the conditions. And ESR Finch moving up the inside as they go through Curve Paul Frere. TRL Limitless now onto the back of the Flying Finn. Incredibly. Started from 7th position. More contact with the rear end. That's going to be some front wing damage for JD as he gets into the braking zone now for the bus stop chicane. And ESR Orca is dropped down now to 3rd position, but is keeping up. And again, it just really seems like the drivers are kind of tripping all over each other in these braking zones, AliK.
Yeah, after a dry quali session, they're taking a bit of time to get used to these conditions, and that front wing damage is really going to hamper TRL Limitless as the Flying Finn runs a little bit wide. But something to note as well, all the drivers pretty much are running 7 on the front wings, and the Flying Finn is down on 4. So his straight line speed is going to be ridiculous, but in the corners he's going to be losing quite a bit of time to drivers like Limitless. That's a big snap through the middle of Eau Rouge, and Limitless is now going to be putting him under all kinds of pressure. And Orca as well, it's going to be 3 wide down the straight. Is it? Finn moves to block Orca on the inside. They're still side by side, Orca and Limitless. Orca backs out of it slightly. Limitless still trying to go around the outside of the Mercedes, but he cannot carry enough speed to get past the Flying Finn, and it is still as you were in the top 2, the Flying Finn leading from TRL Limitless, and then ESR Orca, and Jason is up into P4 in all of that. In the madness that was happening in the midfield, the second Renault has really benefited, and this top 4 train is really starting to break away from the rest of the field as Alonso is on the back of this, so top 5 actually, and then Stu is the head car in the second train almost, and I think these guys are probably going to start to break away from the rest of the field, and we'll probably see a bit of a split start to form in the field. And also actually, you've got to rate the Flying Finn's chances of winning this race now, because Limitless almost a roadblock with that front wing damage. You won't quite have the pace to stay with the Mercedes, we assume. I mean, the slipstream is strong, but I don't think it's quite that strong. So we expect Finn to gap Limitless and maybe gap the rest of the field in the situation it's looking like at the moment.
Yeah, ESR Orca does have all of his front wing, though, which, of course, in these conditions is going to be a definite plus. He's purple after coming out of Sector 2 and getting that slipstream off of Limitless, who definitely has lost a little bit of time to the Flying Finn as they head towards Blanchimont now. And this is where Limitless is really going to be feeling that lack of the front wing as well, because it's on the right-hand side. So through those left-hand corners, he's really going to be feeling it. And actually, Jason97 F1 with the exact same piece of his end plate missing on his front wing. So the 2 Renault boys have gone and decided to damage their front wings in the exact same way. But SDS F1 Alonso, as you mentioned, keeping up with this lead pack as Stu now is leading the pack a little bit behind. And actually, he's starting to even gap, I believe that was Falcon in the manor. So it looks like Stu might be in for a lonely race if he keeps pulling away and also dropping back at the same time. Franglish definitely struggling as Danny M7 has caught up to the back of him. Oh, and that's a very awkward spin into the pit lane exit. He's going to have to actually utilize reverse gear, and that is definitely when you know that your race isn't going well if you're using reverse.
Yeah, it's not gone well at all for Danny. You can see TRL Martin, despite all of that, was still behind Danny at that point. Here is Martin, only just crossing the finish line now, as the rest of the field are already out of Sector 1. It's been a disastrous start for TRL Martin, the man who sits second in the championship at the moment. This is on board the start with Orca. He gets a pretty clean start, doesn't hamper his teammate at all into turn 1. He outbrakes himself slightly, but I think that's to be expected in the conditions that we have at the moment, and gets away pretty cleanly in general. That is, well, he looks like he's been doing it all season rather than his first pole position. And this is on board with the last American winner, actually, LuckyDog in P14. A bit of lag going on with Burnout, but I think LuckyDog manages to keep this clean just about. It's a bit sketchy with the lag, but LuckyDog looks alright for now. And then this is what happened to Martin. He dropped back at Eau Rouge, obviously, and then, Burnout taps Stu in front, and then Martin taps the back of Burnout and then gets collected, and he goes for several very, very long spins into the wall, and that is his front wing gone. Then a very, very long pit stop to change his front wing, and he's dropped well back. And you've got to remember the pit lane at Spa is pretty long as well. This is what happened to Finch when he hit a laggy Haas, then was lying 90 degrees across the track and took out the other Haas car and the Sauber with him as well. So yeah, you can tell there's a lot of lag going on there, because there's not even any contact on Danny's screen, and then he ends up in the side pod for Williams and then taking the Sauber off Surprise with him. Very unfortunate for all of those guys involved, actually. You can't really pin any blame on any of them. And then this is Jason avoiding all of that. Wow. That's some incredible reactions to get past all of those guys. And then Alonso, and Falcon just keeping it on the track as we go through Staffalo, I think that is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what the corner name is. And this is what happened to Danny as he tries to get into the pit lane the wrong way, and his afternoon after an incredible qualifying has gone from bad to worse.
Yep, and there we get to see the off-board shot. Oh gosh, it's even more depressing for Danny seeing it from Surprise's point of view there. And this was lap 5 actually, with Alonso following Jason as they go through Eau Rouge, come onto the Camel Straight. He moves to the left-hand side, which of course is going to be the outside line for Jason heading into this corner. Excuse me, outside line on Jason. But really gets to take the apex. Nice, easy move for Alonso, gaining positions. And in this top 5, he's definitely in the hunt. Yeah, he's definitely involved with all of this. He could see himself in a podium position. Orca currently occupying that final podium position spot right now as we come to the end of lap 5 to start lap 6. And yeah, a definite gap starting to form, and Limitless clearly struggling at La Source as well. Is Orca going to get a run on him? It looks like he just about has. He's going to have to feed into the slipstream, I think, through Eau Rouge, and he's going to be getting a heck of an amount of dirty air, but the Flying Finn is gone. I mean, you can barely see him. You can only just about see the spray coming off of that Mercedes as he heads down the Campbell Straight in excess of well over 200 miles an hour. TRL Martin now, just now completing, and again though, setting purple fastest lap. Of course he is on slightly fresher tires, but only by a lap or so. So TRL Martin clearly relishing these conditions and doing well in those conditions, despite being sent back to the nearly last place. I think he was second to last place when he came out of the pits. But ESR Finch possibly smelling a bit of weakness from that Force India ahead. He's kind of urging him through the corner. Come on, faster, please, faster. Falcon, on the other hand, is picking up a boatload of understeer through the corner with no name, and LuckyDog is going to possibly, no, he's not going to do anything into Puan, dropping it down into 4th gear in these conditions, still in excess of 100 miles an hour at the apex of that downhill left-hander, double left-hander even. And Finch is definitely going to be looking for a way around this Force India as quickly as he possibly can. It looks like he's got a 2-stop strategy on his screen. We'll see if that actually ends up going through or not. We're on lap 6 now, so just about a quarter of the way through this race, a little more than a quarter. And yeah, that gap between 5th and 6th is just ever growing. And Jason as well, looking at the minimap, Jason, Limitless's teammate, Jason97 F1, appears to be dropping off of the top cars. Yeah, we're on board with him now, and we can see that gap between himself and Orca. Oh, how the mighty have fallen down into 4th position, but Jason closes up a little at the bus stop chicane, but can't quite get on the power like he would want to coming out of that corner. And, ooh, that's definitely dipping a wheel in the grass. The Flying Finn is right on the edge. He is really trying to build that gap as much as he can, and it is working so far. RS Falcon goes extremely wide at La Source, but that's not going to slow him down too much, and in fact could give him a good run on LuckyDog. Or no, sorry, excuse me, we're on board with Ryan now, who could get a good run on LuckyDog coming through Eau Rouge now. 190 miles an hour coming into the corner, up and over the hill at 180. And is it going to be another fastest lap? Yes, it is. Nearly down into the 2-minute flat range for TRL Martin. He is driving like a bat out of hell right now.
Yeah, when you consider everybody else is still, 2-minute 2s pretty much. Look at Limitless's fastest lap in the top right. That is really, really impressive from TRL Martin. And it does make you wonder what could have been potentially in this race. But Limitless is just bleeding time to the Flying Finn at the moment. That wing damage is really, really hampering him. We saw he had a huge amount of pace early on, but I think that wing damage has just nullified that tenfold, really. He's losing endless time. You can see the understeer he's got. He's running incredibly wide out of Puan. He's all over the place as Alonso has got up into P3. We've missed something there as Alonso is way up the order now, but ESR Ryan, you've got to mention as well, running around in P10, pretty impressive for him to be in the points. LuckyDog as well. Guys, we don't see in the points too often, so I'm sure they would be pretty happy to pick up 1 and 2 points respectively. And Finch recovering from that lag incident early on, trying to go around the outside of Stu, and he's not going to be able to make that one work. But again, with the slipstream into Blanchimont, he's got to be a little bit careful. We saw Limitless get caught out there with the Flying Finn early on, but he should be able to make a move pretty easily at some point with this slipstream, and Limitless getting very aggressive with Alonso defensively there. He's trying to downshift mid-corner, he's run a bit wide, and Orca's now going to have a run on both of them. Limitless lagging flight as Orca goes for a dive, does he? No, he doesn't. And these three are still line astern as Limitless pulls into the pits early. It's a very early pit stop. The first person to pit, well, the first person to pit not forced to by front wing damage, and it's all kicking off here with 4 cars in the space of 1 second or something as Limitless is going to avoid all of this traffic and come out and clear out, which could be crucial for him because he's going to have that front wing change. He needs to make this time up urgently.
Yeah, that's going to be very helpful for him. I assume he's going to... Oh, gosh, and that is a Manor just parked on the racing line heading into the bus stop chicane. That's incredible. That must have been terrifying. Holy cow, that is terrifying for me just as a spectator. Limitless is going to feed out of the pits into 13th position and incredibly ahead of Martin. So, I mean, that just really emphasizes how much time Martin lost as a result of that spin after coming out of Blanchimont. Oh, and Limitless gets it all wrong, and that is the end of the race for the Renault driver. TRL Limitless out of the race, gets it all wrong at Eau Rouge at the top of the hill, makes contact with the barrier. Very awkward. It looked like he might get away with it, but then just that front right comes loose, and that is end of the day for JD. He is out of the race, and I'm sure that is going to be great news for people like Orca and Alonso, who I'm sure were worried. And yeah, now they're going to get that message at the bottom of the screen saying Limitless has left the session. It may have been a bit of a distraction for Finch, actually, as he nearly loses the back end at the exit of Puan Oris Falcon now up onto the back of him. Finch just so wide. I mean, that's kind of the karting line, I guess you could say, but I don't think that's gaining him any time on the Manor behind, and LuckyDog definitely seems faster than both of these guys.
Yeah, he seems to be doing pretty well at the moment. LuckyDog promoted up to P8 after Limitless's disaster, and Orca asking for the weather report. Jeff saying very usefully that he doesn't have the data for that request, but I think with the 100% chance of rain, we can fairly safely assume that we're going to be on inters until the end of the race, which should make it a fairly simple one-stop. I would assume if people are pitting lap 7 or 8 and still being offered one-stops by their engineer, you would assume that these tyres can go at least 12 or 13 laps or something along those lines. And this train for P6, held up by Finch here, is looking very tasty at this point. Ryan now picking up 2 points, and now we're going to have, I assume, a replay of Limitless. Yes, we are. Just as it was looking like it was picking up for Limitless, gets it slightly wrong at Eau Rouge, and then Kevin Magnussen style into the wall. Goodbye front right wheel, and it's all gone wrong yet again for TRL Limitless. The man cannot catch a break at all. Just as we thought it was picking up from this season, it's gone wrong once again. He has not won a single race on this game. If you think back to Season 7, I think it was, when he got his first ever victory here, this is just a world apart from that. The man needs to, I think, just regroup a little bit before we go back for F1 2017. But thinking about the here and now, that was incredibly close into Blanchimont between these two.
Wow, side by side into the bus stop chicane. Looks like Stu's just about going to hold on to that racing line, and he does indeed. And actually, Falcon peels off into the pits at the end of lap 9 for presumably his one and only stop. 45% on the rears with the low traction, of course, coming out of the low-speed corners, just lighting up those rears, and it's just killing him. 58% for ESR Finch as he is continuing to try and get by the Force India of Stu. I have to say, I would have predicted that he would have gotten by the Force India at this point, but here we are on lap 10, and he's still stuck behind Stu, which is a tough sentence to say, undoubtedly. RS Falcon is going to feed out of the pits, though, into P10, and with clear air up ahead, but with TRL Martin just behind him and on what would be 8-lap-old tires now as he starts his 9th lap on that set. Of course, came into the pits at the end of lap 1 for that fresh set of intermediates. ESR Finch still trying to find a way past Stu, and that's definitely not the way to do it. He's going to have to go around the outside of what is almost a downhill Luffield, is what that corner feels like. Just goes on and on. Great traction, though, for the Williams, and oh my gosh, I don't think Stu expected that Williams to be there as ESR Finch goes for a bit of a spin at the corner with no name, catches LuckyDog as well, who's going to ghost, thankfully. ESR Surprize is going to fly through both of them and gain a number of positions as a result of that, and LuckyDog not so lucky in that one. Neither was ESR Finch. Let's see a replay here, and is this what it looked like when... No, this is on board with TRL Martin as he's catching up to TRL Williams. No DRS, of course. Oh, and the Ferrari on full wets, and clearly those are not working out for him. as he just gets past it like he was standing still. And here's that replay. Like I said, to my eye anyway, it just looked like Stu did not expect the Williams to be there, just gave him no room whatsoever, but I don't think that was intentional. Rather, I think that was possibly a proximity arrow issue. Let's see. No. Yep, I think that was just a plain old silly mistake from Stu there.
Sort of. I think Stu has full right to that corner, really. It's just such a silly move from Finch. Why on earth is he going for a move like that into the corner with no name when you can make such simple passes into Ycoms, into the bus stop? Why not just wait even a couple of corners more, maybe even go for the chicane? Why on earth would you go for a move there and risk everything and risk losing what he did there? Oh, and he's binned it in the pit. Well, no, he hasn't. Okay, calm down. He's alive, just about. He's lagging all over the shop. I don't think that would have helped either. He's been lagging this whole race. I mean, you did get quite excited with him in the pit wall there. That is totally bizarre. I've never seen lag quite like that. He appeared to be just parked on the pit entry. And Stu now into P8 after that little incident with Finch. I don't think Stu would have felt any effects from that, really. And as I said, I don't think Stu really did anything wrong. I think he had full right to that corner, in all honesty. If I was him, I probably would have done the same. And Jason is boxing this lap 12, so he's only got 10 laps to go on that set of intermediate tyres. He should be fairly safe in that. And Danny getting very close to the wall. Oh, it's all gone wrong. Again, the Haas driver cannot catch a break again at the moment. So many times he's damaged his front wing in so many separate occasions, and I have a horrible feeling we're about to see another one here. Up Eau Rouge. Oh dear, oh dear, no. Oh dear, oh dear. That was quite spectacular. I mean, side to side, working on the wheel. I mean, he has managed to lose both wheels on Eau Rouge. That is fairly impressive. I think we might have to give him a trophy just for that one. A bit of consolation after a fairly desperate afternoon. Jason, now the sole Renault in this race, is running around in P5 as Orca is on the full wet tyres. That is an interesting call. You can see on Jason's screen, it does look visibly quite heavy, the rain. This could be a big call from Orca here.
Yeah, this could be huge. We'll actually find out right now as Orca goes up the hill through Eau Rouge. Certainly his tire is not going to be completely up to temperature. Jason 97 F1 closing in at quite a rate of knots, but he's going to be bouncing off the limiter pretty soon here, actually. And Orca with the straight line speed to deal with that Renault behind him, actually. Of course, no DRS in this race, and those are some very worn intermediates for the Flying Finn, who appears, based on a layman, of course, I don't drive so much these days, but it appears to me that he's been waiting for these full wet conditions, because that's a very long time to wait for the first pit stop. So I think Flying Finn may be staying out, really making sure that he's going to go onto the full wets at the best possible time. And Jason 97 F1 hasn't been able to just drive right around the outside of Orca here. So I'm certainly thinking that these full wets are the right compound choice, or if they aren't at this exact moment, they will be very shortly. Misses his apex ever so slightly through turn 13. Jason's going to close right up on him, hugging that inside line through 14 now, and on the run down towards Stavolo. And it looked like the back end was going to step out again. He's definitely slower, but it seems to me that the full wets are a bit more viable now than they were a few laps ago when we saw TRL Williams just really struggling on those full wets. And the Flying Finn, the championship leader and reigning champion as well, into the pits at the end of lap 14. And will we see a set of full extreme wet tires fitted to that Mercedes? Jason 97 F1 still on those intermediates. And I wonder if we're going to see him going into the pits for a set of full wets as well. No, he continues on for another lap on those inters. Tyrrell Martin now up into 8th position, incredibly, but he's coming into the pits. And I think, Ali, that's a pretty good indication that full wets are never mind. Never mind, the Flying Finn has maybe looked like an idiot as he comes out of the pits on the intermediates. Either that was a mistake or he is proving me wrong here.
I think it's a 50-50 call, really, because the inters tend to be pretty good until we get literally monsoon conditions. It's only in the absolute extreme rain that the full wets become fast. If you remember back to Germany in Season 12, the Flying Finn did something similar where he pitted for wets, and so did Tyrrell Martin, actually. They all pitted for wets, and it never got to full wet conditions. So I think they'll all have that in the back of their minds, particularly the Flying Finn, and that might be why he's gone for that set of intermediate tyres. I think it's the safe option, really, because the inters are going to have a wider operating range, really, I think, than the full wet tyres, or at least on this game. And I don't know whether they've listened to their engineer or something. And if you look at what Jeff's saying in the bottom of the screen, it's borderline, apparently. So it is really in the balance here as to which tyres are the faster. I think by the end, the wets will probably just about edge it, but it is really too close to call at the moment. I think if I was in this position, I would probably have gone for the intermediate tyres, just because Jeff doesn't always know entirely what he's talking about, and the Inters is definitely a safe option, as Alonso even gets very, very sketchy on the exit, and maybe the Inters aren't such a safe option.
Yeah, I would definitely caution them to stay off the curbs, because that really seemed to unsettle the McLaren. But yeah, the former teammates now could be battling for the lead of the race. The Flying Finn, of course, wow, and Stu just getting some nice encouragement from the Sauber of ESR Ryan through Curve Paul Frere, just letting him know he's doing a great job. And Stu is still holding on to that 6th place position incredibly. Even despite all that action with ESR Finch earlier in the race, he is still holding on to that P6 very well. SDS F1 Alonso, again, running behind his former teammate from last season, season 12 of the Flying Finn. He's now since moved over to McLaren, of course, with the Flying Finn driving for Mercedes. And we're going to actually move on board with that Mercedes as he finishes lap 16 to start lap 17 now. And that was a 2:06, and it was also a 2:06 for SDS F1 Alonso, so he's definitely putting in similar lap times to his former teammate. And ESR Orca has closed right up to the back of him, actually. I was not catching, I wasn't checking the gaps between them, but Orca now right onto the back of that McLaren as they make their way through Eau Rouge, even, heading onto the Kemmel Straight. And let's see, is Alonso going to defend the inside line? It sure looks like he will. But how early is he going to have to brake? That sure looks like a lot of standing water here on the Kemmel Straight, possibly some contact, or either that or Alonso just losing the back end under braking, which could mean he's actually locking the rears under braking side by side. And definitely the full wets, I think, are providing more grip, as Orca nearly just drove right around the outside of turn 8. And again, just kind of bumping that McLaren. You can see he can definitely go quicker than this. And with over 4 laps of racing still to go in this Belgian Grand Prix, and I can't even believe it, I actually prayed for rain. You might have missed it, Ali. I prayed for rain at the end of the German Grand Prix, and it is here, and it is fantastic.
Yeah, it is definitely causing a lot of trouble for these two out front, and I think this might have been an inspired strategy call from ESR Orca. Those wet tyres have really come into their own. And if you think how far back he was from the Flying Finn earlier, he was with Jason, who I think is the dot behind these two cars on the minimap. He's closed a huge amount on these guys, and they were running 2:06s when they were running 2:01s earlier in the race. That is almost 5 seconds. Yeah, look, you can see the delta in the top right, 4.2 seconds off in the first 2 sectors alone. The wet tyres are the ones to be on, but Orca is getting all over the back of this McLaren. Alonso is doing some kind of incredible job to keep the Haas behind him. It must be like driving on ice on the intermediates. This is essentially a monsoon now, as Orca's trying to go around the outside at the bus stop chicane. He's got an almighty run through Blanchemont. Alonso on the inside trying to squeeze out the Haas. There's contact between the two of them, and Orca, I think, is through now to chase down the Flying Finn for his first ever AOR F1 victory. And you would have to really favour ESR Orca at this point. He's on the right tyres. These two are also sticking it out on the intermediates, but the wets are definitely now the right call. We doubted it earlier, but Jeff was right. It is definitely time for the wets, as Martin's closing up to the back of the field. Or I'm closing up to the back of these two even. And this is P6, so Martin could end up with P6 at the end of this race. How incredible would that be?
I mean, he was facing the wall at one point, missing an entire front wing, down to second to last place. I think he was in 16th position at the end of lap 1. And yeah, that would be truly incredible stuff. And as you said, just an inspired decision by Orca, who has already pulled a couple of seconds worth of gap to the McLaren behind him. And I think Jason is not really closing up on the McLaren. Looks like a similar sort of distance. Of course, he is on the same tires as well, struggling on the intermediates, and already We're not even through Sector 2 of lap 18, and already the Flying Finn is getting proximity arrows for that Haas behind him with the full wets on. The poleman, ESR Orca, closing in on the championship leader, heading into turn 13. Is he going to try it around the outside? It looks like the Flying Finn just about has him covered off. It looks like he's not going to make any sort of moves into 14. It's a very short sprint out of 14 down towards Stavolo. Not going to be able to make any sort of moves through there. Just missing his apex, though. It looked like a four-wheel slide for the Flying Finn through that corner. He's going to be struggling to get on the power, of course, short shifting all the way through. Curveball Frere. Can the Haas do it? He's going to have to go around the outside at Blanchimont with these full wets. Can he do it? No, it looks like the Flying Finn just about covering him off with those slight left bends in the circuit. Heading into Blanchimont. Oh my gosh, the incredible speed of Orca through that corner, through Blanchimont. Can he do it around the outside? The Flying Finn very late onto the brakes, goes very deep into the corner. Orca's going to have to go around the outside now at the final corner. Very close between them. Can Orca get the power down well enough to get alongside the Flying Finn? It looks like he just about had, but no, some lag kind of snaps him back. Oh, very late onto the brakes for Orca. Into La Source they go side by side, and it looks like Orca's just about got the better traction. Yes, he's going to move ahead of the Flying Finn at the start of lap 19. Just 3 laps remaining after this one is completed, and Orca moves ahead with that inspired choice. Oh gosh, and a big mistake from the Flying Finn as well. He's going to run very wide off the circuit. He's going to pick up a limit warning for that as well. And that is incredible stuff from the Haas driver, formerly Killer Whale, in case you guys missed out on that part. He's now ESR Orca, and he is now leading this race. It's been a couple of seasons since we've seen an American winner in the top league of AOR F1.
I cannot quite believe what I am seeing. ESR Orca with one of the most unbelievable strategy gambles we have seen in recent memory, really, in AOR. I mean, that is a big gamble. It was definitely, well, I'm pretty sure it was intermediate conditions when he put those wets on. Yeah. That was 100% a gamble that could easily have backfired, but instead it has worked out perfectly for the Haas driver. He'd fallen back a little bit in the race, but he has pulled it all back and some, and now he's going to have 3 laps or so to try and distance the Flying Finn and take his first ever AOR victory, and that would be quite a story. Something else to mention though, Alonso is running in a podium position. That would also be quite a story, as is TRL Martin up in P6 after being dead last with no front wing, facing the wrong way. It's all happened to TRL Martin today, and somehow he's still in P6 as Finch. Oh dear, that's not what you want to be doing at all. He's having to go defensive into Puan and TRL Williams, whose wet tyres have finally come into their own. He's going to be up in the points, well, pretty shortly, because Finch is all over the shop at the moment. He is going to be either in a wall or off the track fairly shortly. He is all over the place looking at this. He cannot keep control of that car. And the Flying Finn, there's nothing he can do. He's just got to watch the Haas disappear down the road. He is on the wrong tyres. He made the wrong call at 2 minutes 6 seconds off the intermediate pace they were running at the start of the race. Even though they have half the fuel load or whatever, they are still running massively slower. The wet tyres are definitely the ones to be on, and probably will be, unless we have a drastic weather change before the end of the race. As Finch, yeah, he's off the track now, and Williams surely is going to be able to get through sooner or later as Finch. Oh dear, it goes from bad to worse. He's trying to cling on to this final point, and with that, I think it might make it nigh on impossible, Justin.
Yeah, I certainly don't see him pulling a 3-second gap to TR Williams behind, and we don't know what other types of penalties he may have here, actually. And here's a replay of lap 17, which was, oh, and that TR Williams just maybe waving to the fans. I'm not really sure, but yeah, just went off for a little explore. Stu, who was in 6th, since dropped down to 7th. Oh, and this is him losing the position to TRL Martin. Of course, we saw him in 8th, but rapidly catching the guys in 6th and 7th, and this is the overtake that he made on ESR Ryan, as again, he's just on the right tires. TRL Martin as well, similar to Orca, just picking the right tires. TRL Williams picked the right tires, but he went on them earlier, so I think they are past their best. So I wouldn't say he's a shoo-in for that final points paying position, but here's TRL Martin taking 5th position with 3 laps remaining in the race as well. And here he is on the penultimate lap, and he's actually caught up to the back of Jason 97 F1 incredibly, and is closing him in at quite a rate of knots. Jason, of course, on the intermediates as well, if memory serves me correctly. Of course, we don't get the benefit of that information with TRL Martin's choice of UI, but Jason, you can see clearly struggling through Puan, just way off the racing line, out in that deep standing water, and it's just really not helping him. And Martin's just gonna, excuse me, I need to get by if you don't mind. Thank you very much, sir. And Jason really obliges him. I mean, there was really no fighting that. TRL Martin, of course, one of the fastest guys in the league, and he's on the right tires. Jason is not. That was probably the right call for him to make. He's going to hold on to that 5th place position with a big old gap down to this man, RS Falcon, who is actually defending that 6th place position from ESR Ryan. We saw the two of them battling, I think, quite a bit earlier in the race. So that battle is going to resume now that TRL Martin has scythed his way through both of those cars and indeed past Jason 97 F1 as well. And I wonder what else could be next for TRL Martin. I think he actually is closing in on 3rd place, if I'm not mistaken. Looking at that minimap, they are on the final lap. He's just making his way out of La Source now and heading down towards Eau Rouge, as RS Falcon is going to complete the penultimate lap of this race now, with ESR Ryan right behind him as he gets the white flag, this time by, of course, SDS F1 Alonso. He is the man that is currently holding on to that 3rd place position, but that Red Bull is looming in the mirrors, Ali.
Yeah, what a story it would be if Martin could get up into P3. I feel like Owen Hargreaves using all of these superlatives in one race, but Martin is absolutely flying. I cannot
3 seconds in that last sector.
I cannot quite believe what I'm seeing from the Red Bull driver. It's one of the greatest recovery drives I have ever seen on any game. To get a podium in this race would just be absolutely ridiculous, as Falcon is still hanging on to this P6 for dear life. His tyres are also hanging on for dear life, up on 57%. He's trying to keep the Sauber behind him as best he can. There is Martin, and that car in front of him is SDS F1 Alonso. That is P3 right there. Martin has a sector and a half pretty much to try and pull that gap back. He is right on the limit, all over all of the curbs, in rich mix as well, just pushing as much as possible, trying to reel in this McLaren. But can it happen? Could it possibly happen? Can he possibly catch him with a few corners to go? Well, out front though, Orca is still leading this race. The Flying Finn has been unable to do anything about it, and the Haas driver has disappeared off the front and it appears to be waltzing to his first victory, as Martin is almost in the wall. The Flying Finn here, he can do nothing about it. He's going to get P2 in this race ahead of his brother, but ESR Orca is going to win the Belgian Grand Prix in the most incredible circumstances. I've never seen anything quite like that, as the Flying Finn will come home in P2 with Alonso probably just about hanging on for P3, and TRL Martin in a valiant P4. What a drive from that man.
Incredible stuff from TRL Martin. And ESR Ryan into the final chicane here, side by side with RS Falcon. He's going to have to go around the outside. That'll give, some bit of wheel banging between the two of them. He's going to be off the circuit. That could be a corner cut warning for the Sauber driver, as Falcon left plenty of room at the inside of the corner. ESR Ryan's not hanging around to see if he wants to wave to him after the race, though. He's going to steal that 6th place position, barring any sort of time penalties, as ESR LuckyDog finishes in 8th position. Stu in 9th after holding on to 6th for so long, really falling off the back in the end there. And actually, let's see how he lost that 8th place position on the final lap. ESR LuckyDog on those wet compound tires, just closing up at the exit of Puan. Stu gets defensive into turn 13, and LuckyDog just shoots right around the outside. Again, that's the power of being on the right tire compound. And then with the inside line through turn 14, just really seals the deal there, drops Stu down into 9th position. So here's the final classifications. In the end, a 10-second gap between ESR Orca and the Flying Finn, and that is with a 3-second time penalty for Orca as well. So he actually crossed the line 13 seconds ahead of the Flying Finn. SDS F1 Alonso with the 3-second penalty, as did TRL Martin. He had a 3-second time penalty as well. Jason 97 F1 completing the top 5, then RS Falcon, ESR Ryan, ESR LuckyDog, Stu in 9th, as we mentioned, with a 3-second time penalty, and TRL Williams as well, grabbing that final points-paying position for the Ferrari team. Only point for Ferrari in this race. Unfortunate for the Scuderia, of course, but Williams, considering, we thought he was going to be well outside of the points when he first put on that set of full wets, I'm sure he is happy to grab any championship point whatsoever. Fastest lap, unsurprisingly, goes to TRL Martin with a 2:08, which is probably faster than what I can do on dry tires, and just an incredible finish for him. He would have had third, I think, if not for the small mistakes on that final lap, but understandably, he was a man on a mission. He was pushing as hard as he could. But yeah, driver of the day, definitely got to be Orca for me, just out of nowhere, picking up his first win in AOR. Fantastic result for him. It's actually going to move him up into 7th position in the standings. He would have been down in 9th, I believe. Yes, he would have been down in 9th. So he actually had 27 points heading into this race and picked up 25 more points in this race. So nearly scoring as many points in this one race as he did all season long. Jason97 F1 is going to move up ahead of TRL Limitless. Also, I feel like we should mention in these standings that Streez is no longer in the league because of problems with his Xbox. So that's going to move everybody that was below Streez up a position as well. So it's unfortunate. He was one of the quicker guys that we've seen in F1 2016 in general, actually, but he will certainly be missed. And yeah, you might have missed the last race, Ali, but we were saying even then that the Constructors' Championship looks pretty much wrapped up.
To say the least, yeah. I mean, Mercedes almost on 400 points, even with just one representative left in the races now. The Flying Finn having parted company with his teammate ESR Lee after Lee had some, I think it was wheel issues, I believe, so he's no longer in the league. But I think, regardless of that, they are pretty much assured of a Constructors' title, with Red Bull comfortably ahead of Renault, really, and then Williams, again, only with one car, a little way back. But next up is Monza, personally one of my favourite tracks on the calendar, and the Templar Speed, it's always going to throw up a great race.
Yeah, lots of overtaking, high speed, side-by-side action, the chicanes as well, Ascari, everything about Monza is fantastic. I think everybody will be looking forward to that one and all of the action that it will certainly bring at turn 1 of lap 1. But yeah, for Chris and Fisi and for Ali and for myself, Justin, of course, thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you next time at the Temple of Speed in Italy for the Italian Grand Prix. Goodbye.